Hey everyone, I am very excited to announce my guest for this week's episode of Jillian On Love, Valeria Lipovetsky. She is model turned entrepreneur, mother of three, and has an amazing podcast. And I absolutely love her page. I absolutely love the work that she does. And she's very interesting. She's not originally from this country. And she and her husband have an 18-year age gap. And yet they have been married now for 13 years. And like I said, she is a mother. They are both parents of three. And I would have said, if I met her when she was 20 years old and met the man who would be her future husband, who was 18 years older, I would have felt very, suspicious of it. But we have a conversation about this and about how she chose him and why she chose him. And also she gives some really good tips on keeping just the relationship thriving and alive 13 years later and juggling everything that she juggles. And so I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this episode. I think it's going to be incredibly interesting, and enjoy. So you got married at 21.
Yeah.
Very young.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something that you wanted to do or like dreamed of just like starting a family really young? Was that expected of you by your family or your mom?
No, not at all. I mean, my mother got married at 18. She had me at 19. But back then it was pretty normal.
Yeah.
No, I never expected it. Didn't think. And I was never the kid that thought about getting married or having family or kids or anything like that. My mother was actually super surprised. She's like, I did not think you'll ever get married, honestly.
Mm.
But I just met the right person, you know. I was sharing with you earlier, just there was this feeling of like the world stood still and I felt at ease. And I don't think I've ever felt that ease ever in my life. So that signaled something, that person is someone that's very special. So it just kind of happened very quickly. No drama, just kind of, you know, it was like it flowed.
And he's much older than you. How much older than you?
18 years older.
So you met him when you were?
I was 20.
20. Okay. So then, and he was 38.
38.
So how did the two of you get flack for that? Was there a lot of judgment? What was your journey like with that?
I always dated men that were older than me, not that much older, but I always had that. I never really related to anyone in my age. But when we met, of course, there was a lot of criticism and a lot of opinions. But I went to my mom. I told her I met this person and, you know, feels very special. And I told her, you will meet him. And if you say no, then I'll end that relationship. Because she has a lot of experience.
I was just going to say, so you really, really trusted your mom. You trusted her opinion. Because a lot of people, they'll bring their significant other, the person who they're interested in, the parents will, if the parents aren't not into them, like that might even fuel the fire to be with them anymore. So you already were like, if you don't like him, I will end this.
Because my mother and I grew up together, and I was a witness to so many dysfunctional relationships that she had. I'm like, who would be a better person to listen to?
Oh, I love that. I actually really, really like that. A lot of people would tell themselves, well, what does my mom know? She's only had dysfunctional relationships. But no, you saw that as her having some wisdom about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always appreciate practitioners, you know, and having the ability and honestly the humility. Like, I'm so happy that my ego, because, you know, when you're 20, you think you know everything. And I'm so grateful that my ego didn't kind of stood in my way of listening to her advice. But that's just something I knew. First of all, she's the person that wants the best for me. There's no one else out there that I can ask for their opinion. And then she has a lot of experience. So I was like, you're going to meet him? If you say no, it's a no. And I told
wish
Gary,
I had done that.
Yeah. You think your parents were able to identify?
My mom definitely identified the ones. I mean, not my ex-husband, just because he was just they actually got along so well, and he kind of fooled us all. But and he was in many ways had such a great energy and part of his personality. No one knew how he was going to be in a marriage. But all the other ones that were not great, and some of them, like a couple of them that were just bad, I wish that I had said, I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, they know.
They know.
So I listened to her. She met him. And I told Gary, I was like, listen, I'm letting you know that if my mom says no, it's a no.
How did he take that? I'm curious.
He's like, okay, let's do it. Let's go.
Okay.
So they met, and my mother's a very strong, direct personality, like a very Russian Jewish warrior.
Yeah.
And she just asked all the questions and, asked him about him and what's his intentions and all the things. And that's it. She kind of came to me and she said, listen, he's amazing. I know you'll be taken care of and you'll be in good hands, and he has a good heart. But she told me, the age difference, I know you think it doesn't matter now, it will matter. She also always had older men, and she just kind of shared with me the experience and said, I just want you to know. And I really appreciate that, that gave me that perspective. She kind of from the beginning made sure that she popped my bubble a little bit to just know what's to come.
Yes.
And what the implications of it.
What were some of the things that she warned you of?
She just said, he's going to get older, and you're going to get older, and you're 20 now, and you're going to change 100 times over.
Yeah, you change a lot.
You're going to become a different person.
Yeah.
He is not going to become a different person. It's pretty, this is who he is.
Yeah.
And you need to be okay with it, and you need to know that with the years it might get harder.
Yeah.
And people get older, their mannerism change, and what they want changes, and just a lot of things that at 20 I didn't think about.
Sure.
And I think that they had a conversation as well, Gary and my mom, or maybe just Gary out of his own initiative came to me, and we talked about it. We really spoke about all the positive and negatives of our age gap before we got married. He also did something that I always thank him for. He told me from the get-go, it's like, I need you to know that there are going to be a lot of Wednesdays. Like, our marriage in general is made out of a lot of Wednesdays. And I was like, what does Wednesday mean? And Wednesday is this hump day.
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing exciting about it. It's just, you just get through it, And that was just such a healthy perspective.
How did he have that? Was he married before?
No. But I think he didn't get married because he just he needed to learn a lot about himself in order to find the right person and then enter into, that kind of relationship. He's such a committed person. I don't think I've ever met somebody that's he just threw himself into this marriage and just never looked back. And that's in general his character. Even with our move to Miami,
Yeah.
He was like, we're leaving Canada, we're paying the exit tax, that's it. I'm like, no, but maybe, maybe this doesn't work out. He's like, no, there's no way back.
Yeah.
So he was always very assertive, very, sure of his decision. And that was very helpful for me.
Yeah.
We had all these conversations. So when I entered this marriage, I just kind of already had an idea of what to look for.
Did you have to navigate? Was there things in terms of you changing from 20 to 30 and all of that?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's still happening. I know I'm going to be a different person in 5-6 years.
Yeah.
I've changed so much, and it's sometimes I'm trying to put myself in his shoes and kind of, get his perspective of, you're starting this relationship with one version of a person, and then you have to navigate them changing, but also letting them change and make their own decisions, because he has the experience. He's already gone through all of this, right? I'm going through my own little, existential crisis. He already had it.
Yeah.
So he can easily come and be like, don't worry about it. You need to do this, do that. But he also knows that that's not how it works.
Yes.
So the ability to also step back and let someone and watch someone go through that journey, that takes a lot of patience. I don't think I would able to do that.
It takes a lot of patience, but I think you raise a very, very key point to a relationship, which is that, you know, a lot of people will complain, oh, my partner's not growing, they're staying the same. But more times than people realize is that we get anxious and feel out of control when our partner is changing and they're just developing and changing because we want things to kind of stay the status quo. Mm-hmm. And I think that's such a important key to long-term relationship is to allow for that change and to not try to control it and not try to change it. I think that's a big, because we talked earlier on your podcast about like what it means to really love someone. And I think that that's a big part of it, letting like live and let live, letting the person really sort of evolve without you having to control the way in which they evolve.
But that takes so much confidence
and maturity.
Yeah.
It's so important
because it's, you know, it feels like the ground is shaking, but you need to feel like your feet are on the ground, like you're stable.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do. So I am very aware that that's something that he is doing on a daily basis while I'm, you know, still evolving into myself. And I think it's so beautiful, honestly.
Yeah, it is. This episode is sponsored by OPositive. OPositive is a women's health company. They offer a range of symptom-targeting supplements that support women at every stage of life, from their first period to well beyond their last. And what's really special about them? They create real, tangible results with ingredients that are backed by clinical studies and shaped by board-certified doctors. It's amazing. They're committed to breaking down stigmas and addressing issues many women experience: hormone health, vaginal health, menopause, and so much more. They actually have a very specific probiotic called Uro, and it balances healthy vaginal pH. It maintains healthy vaginal flora. And so because there's lots of things that can disrupt that. We know this, ladies: sex, tight clothing, sweat from working out, hormone changes, periods. They can all create changes and just stress in general. And Urovaginal Probiotic is a blend of 4 powerful strains of probiotics backed by research showing these strains support healthy vaginal pH and flora. So it's kind of amazing. All you have to do is take 2 capsules a day, and Uro delivers noticeable benefits within 8 weeks. So take proactive care of your health and head to opositive.com/JOL or enter JOL at checkout for 25% off your first purchase. That's opositive.com/JOL for 25% off. How did having kids change your relationship, and how do you think kids changes a relationship in general?
Well, I think that if your partner doesn't show you all the kind of lessons you need to learn and unlearn, children will definitely do that. Like, you have nowhere to escape. They're such mirrors to every little behavior and you know, thought process that goes through your mind. It's wild. It's wild. I had to confront with a lot of things that I just never thought were any issues, you know, that were an issue. And you just want so much for them, but it's just like in any other relationship, you have to take all that anxiety and ask yourself like where it's coming from, and then it's a lot of inner work.
Yeah,
it's a lot of inner work. And you know, I always laugh about it with friends of mine. It's like millennials are a generation, like, we're carrying a lot on our shoulders because we came from the generation where there was one way to parent. You know, you're strict, you kind of like, kids need to be kids, and it's that. And then we're the generation that kind of, you know, got into this awakening awareness and doing this whole gentle parenting. So we're constantly battling between these two worlds, right?
Yeah.
Of doing this and learning that and moving away from the way things were done to how it needs to be done, and battling with our own kind of inner demons about it. So it's a lot. But it's been really nice. I think that something that changed for me when I became a mother that helped me a lot was when I read the Eckhart Tolle book, New Earth. I specifically kind of stopped on this chapter about the roles. And that gave me such a different perspective into everything that I was doing. Motherhood was a role that I was playing. Being a career woman or an entrepreneur was a role. Wife was a role. Like, I've learned how to not let these roles consume me entirely, because I felt that whenever I associated or like identified with them too much, there was this like nagging feeling of like unfulfillment. You know what I mean? Like something wasn't fully it, because motherhood in its own entirety didn't define me. This didn't define, nothing was really, and I couldn't find my place. So when I was able to look at all these amazing roles that I was playing, it kind of created a little bit of like a separation between myself and the roles, and it helped me to navigate them in just like from a place of gratitude and from a place of just a little bit more of a flow.
Is this something like, as you're going through that, is this something that you and Gary, your husband, talk about often? Like, do you talk about these things regularly in terms of just your internal experience and your internal struggles? Like, how much is having conversations about your inner world and inner experience part of your marriage? And how important do you think that is in a marriage or in a relationship?
I think that there's definitely needs to be a room for it, but I also recognize that doing too much of it can be very draining.
Yes, I agree.
I don't look at Gary as like the source of all the needs. So I do these kind of conversations with my close friends, with my girlfriends. We can go deep and we go in. With Gary, I feel like I'm a bit more strategic, because I do recognize there are things where he won't be able to just sit and listen. He'll go into solution mode, because to your point, that's what men do.
Yeah.
And I know that it's just going to trigger me. So why would I go to him with something that I can easily go and share with a girlfriend, and we can just connect in a way that he won't be able to connect?
Okay, so what you're sharing is incredibly important, because I think that we also live in a time where we're talking about soulmates and twin flames, and this idea that when you're in a relationship, that person should be your confidant, your best friend, your lover, all of it. And what you're saying is so important, because we don't have to bring everything to our partner. Like, we have to outsource.
Yeah,
we have
absolutely.
to outsource love, support, all of it. And I think it's just incredibly key. It's incredibly key. So you raise a very important point for people to listen to.
I also think that it keeps a bit of a mystery.
I
don't want him to know every single, like, we have many years to be together.
Yes.
I don't want you to know every single thing that's going in my head. Like, let me keep some. I want him to always be like, what's going on there? Like, to me, that's important. And I found that when I started operating in that way, it created just like a more loving environment. I don't resent him for not understanding everything and for not having the same hobbies as me, or, getting excited about the things that I get excited.
You don't resent him for not understanding everything. We need a moment to just like really zoom in on. That's very important.
I don't know. I think that early on, I recognize that it's going to be a losing battle.
Yeah.
So, so it's been really interesting to learn who is my go-tos for different needs,
Yes, absolutely. Very important. Being that you're young. You're 33.
Mm-hmm.
Are most
34.
You're 34.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are most of your friends married, or are most of your friends single, or is it a combination?
I would say most are married now. Yeah.
They're married now. Were they? Is this just more recent? Like I would imagine you getting married so young. There was a time where you were the only married one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only married, the only one with kids.
Yeah.
I was always like, I couldn't find my place.
Right.
So I always kind of lived this like in both worlds, you know, of doing this and being a mother and a wife, but then also being a 20-something-year-old being, okay, let's go party. You know, it was really weird place to be at. But now everyone are married. Yeah. I mean, I've probably been married the longest. Most of them are like married for 5 years or so.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, even young.
Yeah.
Young.
So I'm kind of like, I'm the wise. I'm the experienced.
You're the mama bear of the group. Yeah, exactly. So have you seen a lot of your friends sort of fall into this trap of soulmate, twin flame? This person has to be everything for me. I have to tell them everything. Have you seen that in your friendships or in people who you know?
I have to tell you, that's like a source of pride for me. I'm surrounded by a very small group of friends. And I am surrounded by choice, by very self-aware and enlightened people.
Yeah.
You know, so when we come together, it's a lot of this.
Yeah.
And just going in there. And I find that I never had situations, or close friends at least, that are not able to kind of find a solution within themselves for like a situation, especially in marriage. So it's been really interesting to see how we navigate it with, you know, that kind of self-awareness and the accountability.
Yeah.
And we always laugh about like, can you imagine our mom sitting here and listening to this? Like, this is the first, like, we went 180 from everything we've ever witnessed, you know, in our household, because we all come from very similar broken, you know, households. So yeah, it's been a cool journey to be on together.
Yeah, absolutely. This episode is sponsored by Thrive Cosmetics. I love Thrive Cosmetics for various reasons. They have the best mascara, literally bar none. And they also have an eyeshadow highlighter stick, which is really amazing for brightening and opening up your eyes. It's like giving you an instant eye lift. And back to their mascara, it's the liquid lash extensions. It lasts all day. It doesn't clump, it doesn't smudge, it doesn't flake. It's easy removal. It slides right off with warm water and a washcloth. You don't even need soap. And this is what I really love about them. All their products are certified 100% vegan and cruelty-free. They're made with clean, skin-loving ingredients. They're high performance and trademark formulas. And they have uncompromising standards. And that is very important because this is stuff that you put on your face. Thrive Cosmetics is luxury beauty that gives back. Right now, you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/Jillian. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/Jillian for 20% off your first order. Switching gears a little bit to social media because you're so active in it, and because, quite honestly, your age, because you are a millennial, and so much of social media is dominated by, I guess, Gen Z and sort of younger millennials and whatnot. What are your thoughts on some of the, I don't know how much you consume of the content out there around dating and around, like, you know, there's like some of the things like black cat energy and like, you know, like the,
I just saw that today.
yeah.
That's so funny.
I really wanted to hear your thoughts on that. And then I wanted to hear your thoughts on, you know, you speak pretty candidly about plastic surgery, about, you know, you're like saying you stopped doing Botox and whatnot. And I kind of delight in that because to me, you're so young and you look so young. And it's just, I'm seeing all these really young girls, even much younger than you, in their 20s and Botox. And for me, it's just like, I don't get it. I don't understand what's happening. And I don't understand why all these like young, pretty things are injecting themselves.
Yeah.
And so do you think that that's just the influence of social media and just like because it seems like all the girls are starting to look the same and they're all talking about skincare stuff. I'm like,
yeah, like 10 years old.
Yeah. So I would love, as you just being a creator and in the space and someone who's sort of like entrenched in it more than I am, just because I'm more in the like, relationship, what your take is on that.
Well, we'll start with the whole relationship advice online. I think that is such a dangerous grounds to maneuver, especially for young women, from the sprinkle. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No, what's that? Tell me.
It's this, I truly didn't even dive too much into it, but it's this woman that she calls it the sprinkle method of like how women need to, I feel like it's a bit like Why Men Marry Bitches. Have you ever read that book or like know of that book? It's kind of the same thing, but in a updated modern way.
Yeah.
So that, and then there's the black cat energy and all that stuff. And I just think that, again, it's taking the attention from the internal state to all these ideas of how we should kind of behave in order to attract a certain person, or right. And to your point in your book, or we talked about it in our conversation, that you're starting to play a role and then you get into this relationship and that's not the true you. So you're sabotaging this from the get-go. So I feel like it's a lot of that. Another thing is, I talk about it a lot now, where I find it so difficult to keep up with the experts online and with the people that I don't really know the context behind their advice.
Yeah.
I'm big on following practitioners. If you haven't lived it, you cannot speak to it. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have.
Yes.
So, but we don't, today you can be a self-proclaimed expert. So I think that's just the landscape right now. We are getting to a point, and I feel it, of this, we're getting exhausted by it. A lot of people are starting to, okay, we had enough. And hopefully it will kind of go away. It's always, it's like the horseshoe theory. It always goes from one to the other. But that's on that advice. So I do think that it puts a lot of unnecessary ideas and stories in these young girls' minds. They go out there, they get frustrated, but it all kind of goes back to the same. It's like a circle, and they go back to the same starting point. And then at some point they're like, okay, all of this nonsense is not working, so I have to like work on myself.
Yeah.
So that always is the case. And then when it comes to self-image, plastic surgery, all these things, 100% it's the influence of social media, celebrities. I think the Kardashians were huge.
Oh yeah.
They really changed the way we perceive beauty, because they were kind of the first, I would say, on social media. And it's like an endless kind of, rat race and game that you play until you just stop and say, okay, what am I doing? What is this? And again,
all the filters.
Well, that's another thing,
Whoa.
right? It messes up how we perceive ourselves.
Yes.
So I specifically always made it a point not to use filters. It scares me. I can see how it can alter the way you look at yourself and look at the world. And you know what, even today, if you look at the reality shows like The Bachelor, if you look at The Bachelor from 10 years ago, how the girls looked 10 years ago to how they look now,
totally,
the level of kind of like beauty standards went up so drastically. No wonder we're all feeling like, am I just ugly?
But I don't even think they look good. That's the thing. I think it's just too much plastic surgery, too much everything.
But because we've been seeing it so much,
that's what we
to
think.
Us, we're like, oh, that's
the standard. Yeah, I know.
So the whole Botox journey, I started doing Botox at 32. Most of my friends, when I was 20,
why?
When I was 24, 25, they were like, Valeria, you don't do Botox, it's preventative.
Is it preventative?
No, it's not preventative. It's complete nonsense. And I want everybody, I want doctors to go out. I know it makes too much money for everybody. So no one's going to step up and be like, listen, it's nonsense. There's some doctors online that are like, it's not it. But yeah, so I started late when I came to Miami because I was like, oh, okay, I have like a wrinkle. Okay, everyone's doing it. I did also my nails. When I came to Miami, I was like, oh.
We mean like the long nail?
Yeah, everyone has like, not too long, but yeah, everyone has like nails. Maybe I'll go do nails. I played with all of that. And I'm just like, okay, I look like I just wore my mom's like clip on, you know? So I took everything off. With Botox, it's again, you come kind of to realizations of like, what am I chasing? What am I doing? Where is this? I think I look great. Like I don't need, to do these things that I don't even know what the long-term implications. Now, I'm not saying I'm never going to do it. Yeah, no. I'm experimenting right now.
Yeah, we're not doing it.
It's just, 'cause I always do that. Whenever I feel like I commit to something or doing something that doesn't feel like comes from like a real place, you know, I stop it. Yeah. So I'm right now on this journey to be like, oh, let's see how I can support my skin and my muscles rather than injecting. Like, let me see how I can actually take care of it.
Okay.
So it's a journey, but I do think that a lot of that is starting to show up because we arrived to this place of exhaustion, of seeing the same faces. People are dressing the same, like it's all the same thing. So the lifespan of everything is much shorter now because of social media. So that's the good news.
Yes, that is the good news. That's very, very, very true. The balance of like being a working woman, mom, and then the energy that we need to bring to that versus the energy that we want to bring to our relationship. You talked a lot about wearing different hats and different roles. And I think that we kind of do. Like we have there's a certain energy that we bring to work when we're doing work, certain energy that you bring to parenting. And then I think for women, it's so hard for us to transition from work mode to like a softer mode, relationship mode.
Yeah.
Do you have I'd love to know your thoughts on that, number one. And number two, do you have any rituals that you do to transition from work mode to relationship mode?
Okay, Jillian, this is the $1 million question. I feel like I've been trying to figure this out. I don't have a solution.
Yeah.
I don't know how to switch from this, very strong energy to come home and soften. For me, it's one of my biggest challenges right now. So I've realized that I actually can't switch. Doesn't matter what I do, even if I take 20 minutes before I come home from work and sit with myself. No, especially for me, Gary and I work together. So work is a huge part of our lives. Yeah. And, we're still finding the boundaries and trying to establish the boundaries of like when is work and when is personal life.
Yeah.
So I don't have an answer to that. I wish that there's a button I could press and I'm just like, can go into this really feminine state of being.
Is it necessary?
I think that you feel when it's necessary. Like sometimes I find myself where it's like I'm betraying myself a little bit when I'm over-indexing or overdoing on like, the more aggressive side, or I'm going to say masculine and feminine. There's obviously a lot of nuance to it, but when I just get too much in my masculine, I feel imbalanced. And I get uneasy and uncomfortable and irritated, and that's when I know that I've been overdoing something. So I then go and try to learn to slow down and try to really kind of focus on myself more. For me, it's solitude. Solitude really brings me back to kind of like a softer side, and it's that simple. And but you can't always afford that. You don't always have time for that. So it's still kind of something that I'm trying to find a solution to. And I think it's a fairly recent issue that we've been having, right, for women.
Yes.
So I don't know if I won't believe anybody that will tell me that they figured it out, because I think it's too early.
It might be it might be too early. You're totally right. So what advice do you have for younger women who are wanting to get married and get out there? Would you give them the advice to wait until they're a little bit older to live their lives a little bit more? Do you have any advice in terms of like how to choose the right partner? Because you chose someone that felt really good. Like you could have, because you were used to sort of instability growing up, although you had a very strong mom, and I'm sure that was a huge anchor for you. You could have gone the direction of instability because it was familiar to you. So do you have, as someone who has sort of lived a lot of relationship life for a young age, what is your advice for the younger girls, or even if they're in their 40s, just women who are single looking for love? This episode is sponsored by Audible. I love Audible. I often listen to books when I'm walking my dog. And so Audible is just amazing. I've reading is very important. And of course, I would like to try to read with my eyes as much as possible. But the thing is, we live in a different world now, and we are able to consume creativity and content as we're walking or as we're driving and as we're doing other things. And so this is why Audible is genius. And this new year, why not let Audible expand your life by listening? Explore over 1 million audiobooks, podcasts, and exclusive audio originals that'll inspire and motivate you. Tap into your well-being with advice and insight from leading professionals and experts on better health, relationships, career, finance, investing, and more. Listening on Audible can help you reach the goals you set for yourself, and you can start listening today when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Jillian. Okay, I'll say that again. Listen today. I love Audible. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Jillian.
Well, I want to start by saying that I'm very grateful that I had the ability to pick someone, not from a place of kind of fear or trauma, but, from a place of what truly I felt I needed. And thankfully, it's something that I still feel, the same about. But your partner will always have elements of like bringing up stuff that, you need to work on. So for me,
there's no perfect partner.
There's no perfect partner.
No,
exactly.
No.
That's why, when you ask the question, should you marry young or not young? To me, it wasn't like, I didn't think I would get married at all. But it was a feeling. It was like such an intense feeling that felt like this was it, that I didn't have even a choice, honestly. So that's a good question. If I had a daughter.
Yes, let's go there.
Okay, let's go there. If I had a daughter, I would probably tell her to wait. I had a very different circumstances. I left home when I was 15, 16. I started working and I became financially independent at that age.
Wow.
So I started my life much earlier than most people. So if I had a regular childhood, I don't think I would have gotten married at 21. It didn't make sense. But at that point, I traveled the world. I got to live in different places. I had the opportunity to experience myself in different environments and who I became around different people, that I had an idea of what it is that I need in my life. Not a lot of 21-year-olds have that. So to me, like we mentioned before, the 20s is the time to put yourself in those situations, to learn more about yourself. So I would say not to get married that young. But to identify kind of the right partner, I don't think I think your book gives you the answer, gives you the roadmap, right? Because it truly comes down to this like self-awareness and
ask your mom
and ask my mom.
Exactly.
If you don't have an experienced mom, you can ask my mom. So I think it really all goes back to this like brutal honesty with yourself and what you want and what you need, and not romanticizing, I think, the idea, because when a lot of the times, like, we avoid thinking about kind of the serious things in life and what's to come. And, and I thankfully had my mom to set me down and was like, listen, this is going to get hard. And my husband, I was like, hey, the age difference is a thing. It is going to be a factor. But if I didn't have them to have these conversations, I don't know if I had enough kind of self-awareness to ask myself those questions. So fostering that, I think, is the biggest thing. I don't think there's an age to it.
I agree. So the advice that you would give to people who are dating someone where there's a large age gap, and by large, I'm going to say, 10 years plus. Mm-hmm. Is there any, I would think that some of the wisdom that your mother imparted, but are there like 3 things that you would tell them to just be mindful of?
Yeah, I think to sit down and really kind of open up the conversation of what it's going to look like, not right now, but in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We have these conversations often. Gary took it upon himself to double down on his health because it's real. Like, he is much older and we have small kids and he has to think about it, about the financial side of things, about like, there's a lot of real life things that need to be taken into consideration. So being able to sit down and have these conversations is extremely important. Like, you want to be very clear because you are giving your life and time and attention to this relationship. You want to make sure that, you guys are very clear on what is.
These are the important conversations to have.
Yeah.
That, a lot of people don't have. It's actually, actually kind of shocking.
I think we're just kind of like, well, whatever happens, happens. We'll figure it out. But
you can't have that. I think what I'm hearing you say is that you can't actually have that kind of attitude when you're going into a marriage or any sort of important partnership.
No, because that's the source of this anxiety and stress and, the unknown. It's very scary. It's like you're going into a partnership without having a contract or an understanding of how it looks like and, what's your vision for it. And by the way, that contract needs to be discussed every maybe 5 years, revised. Like, all these things they're real.
Do you think talking about it, going over it every 5 years is important?
I think whenever there's a big change, if it's internal change, you feel different. If there's a change in financial, aspect, any changes, kids are coming into the picture, 100%. You sit down and you're like, how does that look like? And that's extremely important.
It sounds like it was one of the keys to the success of your relationship and the longevity of your relationship.
Right. So we don't have unmet expectations, So
we don't have unmet expectations. People really don't talk about it. Last thing that I wanted to go over is, I'm so curious if your husband, is he Canadian?
He was born in Ukraine, but he grew up in Canada.
Oh, so do you have that sort of like in common?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah. So it doesn't feel so much like 2 different cultures in a relationship together.
No, I think that's why it matched so well, because we both come from this. We have the drive and, that kind of survival that we're working towards shifting from the survival mode to the thriving mode, because we're no longer in that place. But that also what brought us together in a way, right? We understand our background and our culture, and there's a lot of similarities. And I have to say, like, I do think that adds a lot to the success of a relationship.
Say more.
Where, there's obviously people come together and fall in love, and marriage is never easy. But I think when you are from similar, if it's culture or religion, it is easier.
I agree with that. I think it's because so much of that influences the way that you see the world. And I think that whereas you don't want to be exactly like your partner, if you have some sort of aligned or similar worldview, I think that makes things a lot more interesting and just a lot easier.
A lot easier. And then bringing the kids into play, it's, speaking of the challenges that I witnessed around me with friends or people that we know is that they were coming from completely different backgrounds. Together without kids, everything was great. They found their way, but then kids came into the picture.
Oh, it can shake things up a lot.
And that was and is a big issue, right? And that's also a conversation that needs to be had. So it's not only the idea of like, oh, if we have an age gap, what if you come from different religions? How do you want to raise your kids? How are you going to go about so many different things? Where are the values and morals that are not aligned? So there's a lot.
Did you talk about kids before you had kids and about child rearing and your values and morals around that?
I mean, I got pregnant the day after 3 days after our wedding. So we didn't have a lot of time, but we did, when we were engaged for the year and right away, we knew obviously we were going to have kids and we talked about it. But again, it was all very hypothetical.
Yeah, exactly. And
then the kids come and you're like, oh my, that's not going to work out. So we need to change strategies. But the foundation is there, right? Like the values, the kind of lessons, the things we want to instill in our kids, the importance of like Judaism, like things like that we're aligned on. Yeah. So that just created a clear path for us.
I think it's very, very important. Valeria, is there anything that you want to share or anything that you want to say that I didn't ask you or anything, any final words or anything that you want me to ask you?
Honestly, no. I think we covered it all.
We covered a lot of ground. Where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me at Valeria Lipovetsky on anywhere. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. We'll have everything on the show notes too. Yeah.
Yes, everything. But I'm just, showing up, sharing kind of my personal journey and build a community around that.
I love it. I think one of the things that I love about your content, you're really funny.
Thanks. That's my favorite compliment.
You're really funny. You're really funny.
You.
And you're just kind of like there, like in your like non-sexy bra, but like your very functional bra. And like you're somehow like you're like this gorgeous woman who's like not sexualizing herself at all, but just kind of like, here I am, I'm in a bra and underwear, like whatever, let's get dressed. Okay, this is good. And you're really funny.
Thank you. I'm for the girlies, Yeah, this is my corner of the internet. I'm like, only the girls are allowed.
Yeah, exactly. And you give like really good, like this is if you're gonna go really expensive, this is if you're gonna go more economical.
Yeah, I love, fashion is something that I will always be part of me. I come from the modeling world and I look at it as such a beautiful way to express yourself and to learn about yourself and be able to showcase whoever it is you want to be every single day. So it's always been a pillar of my content. I always felt, at some point I felt kind of silly. I'm like, why am I talking about clothes? I need to talk about something deeper. And I'm like, no, it's not that serious.
Yeah, and do what you would do. It makes you happy and people love it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Had a best time.
Yeah, me too.
Appreciate it.